thing. So anybody that wants to sit in on the Cloud Security Alliance kind of chapter get-together, so you get laughs and you get entertained and you get some information on cloud security stuff. Now, I'm not going to tell you who's doing what in that room, but you get all of that in one session. And after that, you can still go to the cigar and bourbon bar. And I heard there's going to be a Beermeister. I think you call them Beermeisters, perhaps? They're going to be out there demonstrating or showing you the beers. And I thought I saw some cases of Christmas ale out there. Ooh. Let's see, and I think that would be the last. Yep, that's it. So to conclude this program today, I want to introduce our keynote for this afternoon, Joshua Scarpino. Many of you know him because he's actually worked in Diebold and Westfield up here or around here somewhere. Now that I'm from North Carolina, I have no clue where anything is up here anymore, so forgive me. Joshua is the Vice President of Information Security at Trust Engine, where he leads the IT operations and security compliance programs and teams, including the development and management of the organizations responsible for AI and data ethics programs. He's also the CEO and founder of Assessed Intelligence, which is a security and AI research consultancy firm. He has over 2 decades of experience working within IT security and 18 years of experience working within varied DoD roles. He completed his doctorate in cybersecurity at Marymount University, where he's also a part-time educator at Stark College. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Dr. Joshua Scarpino.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Can you hear me? What are we on? Okay. Nope. There we go. Now it's working. And I think my slide deck's actually over there and it's working. Good. So I actually did a version of this presentation about 4 weeks ago, and it was a disaster. There were no slides, so it was me just talking at people. It was a complete lecture. This is actually terrifying for me. I'm an introvert by nature, and I hate getting in front of people, even though I have to do it as part of my job. But, it's a requirement, something we got to get over, personal growth. And this is actually my first time presenting at the Information Security Summit, so I'm glad that Gary was able to talk me into doing this speech. And it was actually the first conference that I came to when I started my journey in the security part of my field. So thank you. So today we're going to be talking about adopting AI, risky business. As soon as maybe it's not cooperating. See, as soon as I say that, there we go. So I don't have to introduce myself. Here's the brief summary of what I've done. I've been in various roles across the industry. I work with NIST, AVID's group, and then I also have a tenured list of experience in the education space. I've actually gone back for my law degree. My wife thinks I'm glutton for punishment, but I actually enjoy learning, and it's a real passion of mine. So first, if you have your phones out, I would like everybody to actually pull out their phones, do the QR. This is not malicious, much like Gary's. And what I would like is to see what you think of when you hear the word AI, what comes to mind. And we will see what pops up on this screen. And in theory, this should be working because I have an internet connection. New. We got new. Can't see. They put a table up here on me. Future. Marketing. Interesting. Non-human activity. Scary. Smarter than me. Hype. Hype. Interesting. Unemployment. Reliability. Good. Overhyped. Man, there's a lot of people that they're not jumping on the train, are they? We will see what you guys respond to the questions later. So, okay. Wow, there's some good ones out there. Smarter than me. Max headroom. I don't even know what you mean by that one. Not a dishwasher. Awesome. So keep those open. There's actually going to be some more surveys later, and it'll switch into those when we get into them. Okay. So let's just sum this up. All AI is not bad. And based on the responses, I think some of you would actually believe that because you think it's overhyped. So does anybody here know who this is? And actually there's a prize for a couple of these questions that you can collect at the end. This is one of them. Does anybody have an idea who this is? Nothing. Okay. Fascinating. So, old guy to computer. This is actually John McCarthy. He is actually an American computer scientist and cognitive scientist. He is one of the founders of the term artificial intelligence. And he actually co-authored the document that coined the term artificial intelligence at a conference he founded with Dartmouth, AI at 50. And this was back in 1956. So anybody know who this is? And I'm going to assume the answer is no. Anybody want to take a guess? Maybe a first name? No? Nothing. Oh man, this is painful. Arthur Samuel. So this is actually the person who coined the term machine learning. This is Arthur Samuel. He coined the term in 1952, and he was the first person to develop a machine learning program that played checkers. So AI in general has been around for a while. He described this as the field of study that gives computers the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. So some may wonder why I mentioned these two people, right? This highlights that really AI has been around for a while, and it hasn't really ended the world yet. So let's talk quickly about the difference between AI and ML. So the difference between AI and ML is artificial intelligence and machine learning, closely related and connected, but because of this relationship, when you look at AI, machine learning, you're really looking at the interconnection of these two. So machine learning is actually a subset of AI. So artificial intelligence is the capability of a computer system to mimic human cognitive functions such as learning or problem solving. The system uses math and logic to simulate reasoning that people use from learning and make information and make decisions. So AI is the process of enabling a machine or system to sense, reason, act, and adapt like a human. Machine learning is the application of AI that allows machines to extract knowledge and data from it autonomously. It enables computer systems to continue learning and improving on its own based on experience. And while artificial intelligence encompasses the idea of machine learning that can mimic human intelligence, machine learning does not. Got it? Class over? Okay, so as I said, algorithm is a set of instructions to follow to achieve a certain goal. This explicit rules are based on domain knowledge, and hence, historically, they were easy to explain. But with machine learning, we're now dumping data into that, right? So we're throwing data into the equation. It becomes a lot more difficult to really explain. Thomas Edison was actually asked about the field of electricity by a reporter at one point in his career, and he said, "What do you think of the field of electricity?" And he corrected the reporter and said, "It's not just a field, it's a field of fields." And that's true with AI also. So I put this chart on here so people can start to grasp the understanding that AI it's not inclusive of just one thing, right? There's a lot more to it. And LLMs are a subset of machine learning, which is a subset of the overarching AI field. So now that we've settled that AI is not bad, brief history, and it's been around since 1956, and it's not really garnered much attention. I hope everyone enjoyed the talk. And I was asked to ensure that I don't interfere with the bourbon bar. So I threw this slide in here to make sure that I wanted to get the quick points across. But for those that read the description, there's a continued discussion around AI risk for the next portion. And we're going to have a detailed lecture on what is AI risk and cover some possible bad things that can happen as a result of AI. But as I said, remember, it's not bad and it's not going to take over the world. So, next part of the Pulse survey. So we'll go back into that. I got a couple questions for everybody. Oh, it looks like somebody added some new stuff. Okay, so next question should pop up on your phone. How many people are currently using AI tools? Yes, but I'll never admit it. I'm sure your company loves you. Who else we got? No, I don't trust it. And we got yes, sometimes. Okay, let's see, is that I think it is the purple, so yes, daily. So nobody has answered yes, I don't admit it. I guess I read that wrong. The colors are too closely together. Okay, we got 30 votes. Awesome. Let's go to the next question. As soon as I can, this table is really ruining my visibility. Okay, how many people work at a company that has AI deployed internally? Okay, yes, but no one knows. Now I'm actually concerned. So yes, that one is actually a problem. So I would not voice where you work, so your employer doesn't track this. Luckily, these are anonymous. Okay, how many people's companies have established AI governance? We have a program. Awesome. That's actually pretty fascinating. Normally this percentage is a lot less. Pretty good. We are on our way, and no. So actually, these are higher numbers than we've seen across the industry, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the future. Let's see, next question. How many work at a company with clearly defined scope for AI tools that are implemented? A little more in depth. No defined scope, there are no issues. That's right. If you don't create the criteria, you don't have anything to follow, right? Nothing to worry about. Okay, good stuff. And then how many people have a formal risk management program that includes AI risks? Somebody went for the no, only some risks are risky. All risk is risky. That is the moral of the story. Okay, I think that's the last one for here. Yes, okay, so let's continue. Okay, so I fell into this world because I took an AI coding course as part of my first semester in my doctoral program, and I noticed that there were really some definitive risks that were showing up as a result of this. I spent over 3 years on AI research, and part of my dissertation focused on understanding the risks associated with AI. I was having deep conversations with AI leaders across the globe at some of the largest companies, which was really interesting. But realistically, this was during COVID, so that is probably more accurate to what it looked like. But I wanted to gain an understanding of the potential risks that really existed with these technologies and what gaps there currently were. So my AI professor in the class, I brought this up to him, and they're all engineers and developers, which I'm sure there's some in this room. And as I'm sure you're aware, they told me, I would not worry about that. That will not be an issue. There is no problem with this. So throughout 2020 and 2021, AI discussions became more commonplace. And they really became a large focus across 22 and 23. Even through today, there continues to be many new initiatives around AI, and this has drawn an increased focus on concerns in the technology globally. So in my research, there were some 3 primary themes that there were primary themes that revealed themselves after spending hundreds of hours annotating and classifying the interviews. And these themes fell into what I call distinct groups or categories. And those are, man, this table's messing me up. Education, oversight and accountability, risk evaluation, biases, and cultural considerations, which you think I would have those memorized, but I've been through this so many times I have to remind myself. Education. Essentially, this is the need to educate users on designers on what the system's supposed to do and what the expected outcomes of the systems are. Oversight and accountability involves establishing regulatory oversight to govern the implementation of the high-impact system and assigning accountability for those systems. Risk evaluation, the next component, covers the organization's ability to really understand the need and risk associated with the given AI system. Biases, and they come in many different forms. Organizations must ensure they adopt and implement controls to understand biases present throughout the entire system lifecycle. This includes individuals working on the system, the data ingested into the system, or the design of the system. So the last one, cultural considerations, was actually one that I historically had not considered when I entered into going into my research. And it's an area that I actually found most fascinating. It's the cultural views that are used in the development and design of a given system can actually vary significantly based on where that system is designed and who it's deployed against. Cultural norms of society in the U.S., for example, can be vastly different than those in countries around the world. Essentially, culture defines morality and ethics. And embedding stakeholders from multiple cultural perspectives as part of designing, testing, and monitoring ensures that systems are ethical. So, all these items are required to develop ethical AI. So one of the quotes that came up during my research, this is somebody that had over 40 years of experience in responsible AI. They worked at one of the very, very large tech companies, and they said the problem is whose morality is the same as whose definition of bias. If you're in Tehran, you're going to have a completely different, fundamentally deep-baked notion of morality than if you're in Salt Lake City or in Angkor Wat or in Delhi, because cultures have, well, there's a lot of overlap morality, but they have a lot of different shades. And this is a very powerful statement because commonly we look at what is the impact to us, but we don't consider what is the impact globally. When systems are designed, they're deployed against people globally. So last month, I'm sure there's a lot of ISACA members actually in here. Last month, I noticed a new journal came from ISACA, and I thought, great, it says all risk is enterprise risk. Timely articles just in time for this presentation, right? It'll fit perfect. So I started flipping through there, and I was like, jackpot, found it. The industry is moving to AI, aren't you? In fact, this is the only mention in the entire article of AI, which I was actually kind of shocked. So I actually downloaded the digital copy, and I searched it because I didn't believe it, because I was like, okay, maybe I'm just skimming through this too quickly. And I've actually written 3 times for ISACA in different journals, and I'm like, why didn't they reach out to me? They reach out to me every other time when they're doing stuff that's centered around that. But how can you say all risk is enterprise risk if you don't even include AI? So I actually was listening to a podcast a couple days ago, and Deloitte leader said that consulting, let's see, what is it? I wrote this down because I want to make sure I get it right. AI consulting, that AI significantly changes organizational risk, and there are no companies that have engaged in this really and have developed adequate programs, right? So this goes to show you, we have a very well-known organization, great organization, member that I'm part of, and they have not even included AI as a foundational concern in risk management. So, where are we? Here you can see I have a chart depicted on the right. This is expected total market spend for AI tech in billions up through 2030. As you can see, this is rapidly increasing. And I genuinely believe that we're on one of the most profound moments in history. In fact, AI might be one of the most important innovations that humans as a race have created. Today, there's never been more uncertainty as to what potential the future of AI can hold, or more focus on the impact this technology can have on individuals. But as businesses grapple with the future where boundaries of AI only continue to rapidly expand, leaders are now being faced with the challenge of managing that rapidly expanding landscape and the harms associated with it, so the benefits of this technology can really be realized in a safe and responsible manner. So continue this. Where we're at is companies are rapidly adopting and deploying technology because they don't want to miss the AI wave. AI is already being regulated by various laws that go beyond technology itself to include privacy, hiring practices, anti-discrimination. And these are targeted laws, right, that we're lumping in to regulate them. But then in 2024, the EU AI Act was finally passed after years of debate. And like GDPR, this is expected to have a global impact on international regulations. There's also been significant progress in developing AI-related standards and audit criteria globally. This includes initiatives like OECD, NIST, UNESCO, and ISO, and I just heard recently that they're pushing for NIST to have some regulatory authority now over AI. Additionally, there's organizations like For Humanity, which I'm actually a member of, and they develop audit criteria which is being adopted by these international organizations. I'm actually a fellow there helping to develop a cybersecurity-specific audit criteria. AI safety is even becoming a focus, resulting in the establishment of a new AI Safety Institute in the United States with the executive order. AI risks exist at every stage of the AI lifecycle, from initial design and research through development, training, testing, deployment, utilization, monitoring, and maintenance. And they come from a number of different sources that include misuse, biases, and technical flaws. All companies are tech companies now as they increasingly leverage data and technology to really solve business problems. AI requires robust management and a focus on adopting a framework to ensure responsible and ethical AI deployment. So this is another quote that I like. I actually used this in my research. This was from 2017 IEEE Global Initiative on Ethics of Autonomous Intelligent Systems. They said, whether our ethical practices are Western, Eastern, African, or from a different tradition, by creating autonomous and intelligent systems that explicitly honor inalienable human rights and the beneficial values of the users, we can prioritize the increase of human well-being as our metric for progress in the algorithmic age, right? This is something that me founding my companies is something that I go back to constantly because I think it's important that we prioritize human rights as a foundational component whenever we're deploying technology. So, risks in AI. In 2024, the AI Index called out what they call some of the top 10 risks in their new report. First one is the number of AI regulations across the U.S. are rising significantly. Over the past year and a half alone, in 2016, there was actually one. In 23, there were 25, and now there's over 40 in legislative bodies pushing AI regulations across the U.S. If we look at Congress, there's over 120 bills currently in Congress that are in progress in some form that are focused on controlling or regulating AI. People across the globe are actually more aware of the potential impact that AI could have, and they're actually more nervous. A recent study from IPSOS report shows that over the last year, people who think AI will dramatically affect their life in the next 3 to 5 years increased from 60 to 66%. 52% are now nervous toward AI products and services, which is a 13% increase since 2022. And Pew data referenced in the study shows that 52% of Americans alone report feeling more concerned than excited. This is up from 37% in 2022, which is a significant rise. So during my research at Marymount, I remember reading an article about Amazon where a recruitment algorithm was used and discarded once they realized it was resorting to leveraging gender to make decisions. Gender is an excluded variable, as I'm sure most of you people in here know. And the reality is that the algorithm was favoring strong words like executed or captured, which is typically found on male resumes, which in turn causes a problem, right? So in this image, we can see that Waymo cars, they have cars that are keeping people up at night in San Francisco. And not a really big harm, right? Not a big deal. But if we start looking at other things that are being caused from these, and these are all from the incident management database, the AI incident database, we can see that there's Nudify apps being used for extortion, theft of royalties using AI-generated songs, Copilot falsely accusing a journalist of being a child molester, and AI Madrid telling Peace to stand down because it thought a woman was safe, which ultimately resulted in her death. So the reality is AI, while it has the ability to drive real value and innovation for organizations, it also has the ability to cause great harm. And that's something that we need to be aware of. I see people taking pictures. You want me to pause for a second? You good? Okay. I guess that slide's a good slide then. I'll keep that one. So throughout 22 and 23, I worked on a research study where we dove into the governance practices of companies in relation to the AI they deployed. The goal of this research was really to shed light on some of the benchmarking trends that exist in this domain, specifically focusing on good signals of governance and implementation. So we leveraged data that was collected by an organization known as EthicsGrade. I'm not sure if anybody here knows who that is. But this organization specialized in evaluating ethical practices of companies. The data set from the information was over 250 companies, with the majority being publicly traded organizations, ones that have a potential to impact a lot of people. And to assess the governance practices, we leveraged the NIST AIRMF, which I'm sure some people in here are aware of. Our analysis was focused on identifying potential signals of good governance and their relationship to the implementation activities aimed at measuring and minimizing risks with the AI systems. So we wanted to uncover essentially if companies with established AI principles were more likely to engage in proactive risk management activities. So governance signals include principles, which is ethics principles or commitments or overarching initiatives, personnel, thought leadership, quality perspective, external assessment. And these signals have been shown that if they don't do them, it contributes to ethics washing when not accompanied by implementation activities. So does anybody have an idea of what we found? And this is another poll. So if you have your phone, we'll see what everybody believes. Can't see it. Nobody was ready. Oh, there we go. Everybody's jumping up. Okay, no change. Got worse. I wasn't listening. See, I knew it. At least you are honest. I appreciate the honesty. So the highest part is got worse or no change. Interesting. Okay. Let's go to the next one. So, results of our study revealed interesting insights into governance AI systems in these companies. We found that really a large portion of the companies had publicly available AI ethics principles or statements, and they demonstrated growing awareness of the importance of the responsible AI. Companies with well-defined programs were more likely to engage in viable implementation activities that minimize the risks associated with those systems. So of the 254 companies in the data set, 76% had some governance signals present, and 53% had some implementation activity present. So let's look at what that means. So of the 76% of companies that exhibited governance signals, 60% of that population that did something showed 1 to 2 governance signals, right? The majority of them did something, well, bare minimum. Of the 53% of companies that exhibited implementation activities, 70% only exhibited 1 or 2 implementation activities. So at first glance, you might think, hey, this is great, companies are doing something, right? But the reality is that there are a lot of companies doing some things, but not a lot of companies doing everything they should be. So the most common governance signals were companies typically seen as foundational documents. That's your principles, your organizational policies, your oversight documents, saying, yeah, we're responsible, we have responsible tech. The other large portion was actually thought leadership, which means they're contributing to conversations. So a lot of talk, a lot of documents saying that we care about it. External assessment, which means we went out and paid somebody to validate that we do what we say we do. That's only 9% of the population, right? That's pretty low when you're looking at these are large publicly traded companies. So for all companies, 20% exhibited AI ethics or AI ethics related design and peer review process. So that means that they actually had processes in place based on the governance and oversight that they saw. So one-fifth. 17% actually had notification process for potential impact of systems that could impact people that are using the system. So these implementation and governance activities were monitored for a little over a year. So we benchmarked these over a year. And as some of you implied, that they got worse, right? Or they stayed the same. No change, which I think is the largest percentage there. And then, as you can see, there was actually almost 20% on both implementation and governance that they just started doing less. Or they put it out there and said, hey, it's not really that much of that big of a focus for us. This highlights the importance of leadership in these programs at the executive level to ensure that organizations remain committed, right? It's the same thing we do in security. You have to have executive buy-in. So what does that mean? Does anybody have ideas? This is another poll. You get to insert your own answer. What does everybody think that means? Let's see if anybody contributes. I need music. I need that, what is that jingle? The da-na-na-na-na-na-na. I don't know. Oh, okay. Honesty. Dedicated resources. Drink more bourbon. I'm trying to make sure you are all on time. I don't even know what time it is. I am trying hard. Oh, we're good. We're good. We're making progress. Don't stop believing. Okay, I got a slide for you. Okay. So I actually pulled this out. I was listening to another podcast. I saw this, and it said I thought it was completely appropriate based on our discussion. He said, biases have led to the worst mistakes the CIA has ever made. You can't mitigate a vast majority of biases just by being aware. Or you can mitigate a vast majority of them just by being aware. I think that's important, right? Because we're talking about risk management. So, does governance equal implementation? There is sound on this slide, but it's not working. They said it would work. So the cowbell thing, everybody knows what that is? Yeah. So I had a slide for you until it didn't work. So sorry about that. It means that I've got a fever and the only prescription is more cowbell. So if we say we're going to do something, we really got to develop the governance and the process and get the executive buy-in to support and follow through with what we say we're going to do. Enter the NIST AI RMF. So the NIST AI RMF was released in January 23. It's become one of the foundational frameworks and really helping to provide guidance for organizations. It emphasizes a structured, risk-based approach to enhance trustworthiness of AI systems. So does anybody know the components of the NIST AI RMF? Nobody? This is a speak up. Man, I guess this lecture is beneficial to some people. They're going to learn something. Okay. So we have govern, map, measure, and manage. Govern establishes, and it's establish and implement. Map is understand and assess. Measure is evaluate and monitor. And manage is to implement strategies to mitigate risks and improve. So this framework is really designed to promote AI systems that are secure, safe, fair, privacy respecting, and align with the ethical principles and regulatory requirements. So some of these slides were co-developed by my daughters. Just a disclaimer. So mapping an AI system or supporting infrastructure can potentially be overwhelming, especially when you're doing it after the fact, right? Much like Kermit here. Map identifies and assesses risks in their context and involves understanding how AI systems operate and their intended uses are, and what types of risks might emerge at various stages throughout the AI lifecycle. Sometimes my math doesn't math either, and I feel this way often when I'm trying to quantify or assess company audits, right? I've actually used to be an auditor at Westfield, and I know Kevin has felt my pain from doing audits, but he was always a partner in that. But it can often be brutal and require me to step away and come back with a fresh perspective. So Measure focuses on quantifying, assessing, and monitoring AI risks, and the goal is to design processes that continually measure AI risks and performance against risk management objectives, and implement processes for continuous evaluation. Manage, as anybody knows, managing risk and trying to get the organization leadership on board with implementing remediation strategies is a very, very difficult challenge. This can often derail, hinder, and delay organizational objectives, and it often feels like this, as many people are aware. This involves taking proactive and reactive actions to mitigate or resolve identified AI risks. This includes deploying controls, adjusting designs, and revising policies as risks evolve, right? Any governance professional here knows that you have to continuously evolve your governance to support what the organizational objectives are. And then everybody probably forgot I brought up govern earlier. I did not. I put it at the end purposely. So I was on a call with NIST a few months ago, and they actually said that it is map, measure, and manage in a sea of governance, right? And that is a critical statement because, truthfully, governance is the foundational piece or building blocks of everything we do. This image reminds me of sitting with my daughters building towers, right? And without a stable foundation, it's impossible to build anything of value. So it's something that we need to focus on. Governance spans all areas of AI risk and sets the foundation or is the building blocks for what is expected within the organization. It establishes the policies, the strategies, and the practices for the AI for managing risks, and ensures alignment with ethical principles, legal standards, and organizational values. So these ones will be quick, these next two slides. This one I put here because I wanted to highlight when and who for risk management. That's what these next two slides are. So this is the life cycle and key dimensions of an AI system. It's modified from the OECD framework. The two inner circles actually show AI systems key dimensions, and the outer one shows the AI life cycle stages. It's important that risk management starts in the plan and design phase, which you see in the upper left-hand corner, and it goes throughout the entire process, and it's continual. This one was pulled from the NIST AI RMF. This shows that really AI risk management needs to be part of every process, and that people across every area need to be involved in these decisions and risk management process. Open sharing of ideas raises awareness on problems and helps to identify emergent risks. And this concept directly relates back to what I brought up earlier, which was cultural considerations, right? We need to make sure that there's diverse input and multi-stakeholder feedback throughout this whole process. So how do I implement, right? This is what a lot of people are focused on right now. How do I handle this? So we want to understand the NIST AI RMF core functions, which we covered at a high level. It's a lot more detailed. It's publicly available. You can dig into it. We want to tailor the AI RMF to your organization's needs. The AI RMF is designed to be adaptable, tailored to your specific industry and sector and risk profile, organizational goals, and objectives with your organizational values. 2, we want to develop governance policies for AI systems. This includes implementing robust governance practices, ethical guidelines, and defining roles and accountability. 3, we want to perform risk identification and contextualization to understand the risks and impact of the systems that you're deploying. You want to know what's going on. 4, we want to quantify and measure AI risks. So we want to perform bias and fairness assessments. We want to document explainability and transparency, and we want to ensure accuracy, robustness, and reliability in the systems we develop. And then 5, we want to develop risk mitigation strategies. So once we understand the risks, we want to be able to measure them and develop strategies to actually manage those in an ongoing manner. This includes leveraging existing tools, cross-functional collaboration, maintain documentation and transparency, and adapt and continuously evolving your program. Which I guess I could have clicked through these. So let's do it. So as we discussed an overview of what trends in the industry, and the adoption of responsible AI practices, and then we had a high-level overview of the NIST AIRMF, which I didn't want to bore everybody with the details. But to properly implement a framework such as NIST AIRMF, organizations really need to understand where they're currently at in their maturity and establish a target on how to get to their intended maturity. So a group of researchers and I actually looked to gain in-depth understanding of how to create a standard approach for companies to assess maturity based off of NIST. And we also determined that this was really worth the effort after talking with a lot of industry leaders. So we developed a model and tested it by completing a hackathon with people across the industry. So in the military, we have the idea of real versus ideal, right? And a lot of times it's just, let's get it over with, just deal with the problem. But in reality, it's, you should be doing X, do Y, fix it. That's how the military approaches things. This doesn't help anyone, right? Ideal state is, you're at X, here's a step toward achieving Y, and here's what it looks like and how we make a path to get there. So the hackathon had over 250 registered participants, 180 people participated. They were members from publicly traded companies and a lot of private sector organizations and some public ones. They completed this either on their own company or they completed it on a provided sample of companies that we had who were publicly available documents. Most of the participants were in technical roles, advisor roles, and governance and compliance roles. And the largest group of participants was employed in the technology sector, which made up 35% of the people who participated. There were healthcare and finance sectors were the largest sectors that were actually represented in this. The hackathon included participation from North America, Pacific Asia, Europe, and South Asia. In the hackathon, evaluators are asked to evaluate companies as a whole. And yes, I know that some pie is better than no pie. But the reality is that this is not true when you're assessing a company, right? We want to have, if you have only part of the puzzle, it doesn't provide the best actionable outcomes. And this is really what we realized as a result of this hackathon. Looking at companies externally only provides part of the picture. And it's not enough. Individuals that had access to internal documents and that were able to truly evaluate their organizations fared much better at generating actionable outcomes and providing a goal for their organizations. There's definitive value in having these assessments complete internally. So the hackathon showed that we essentially need a guiding light or a goalpost, and we need clearly defined criteria on what's being measured and how to move from A to B to monitor the maturity of the program consistently. Benchmarking into where they were, how far they've came, and this practice has been status quo in security for forever, right? Since I can remember, not forever probably, but. So, as we discussed, policymakers are seeking to manage AI risks, and we can expect continued growth in AI regulations and standards. International agreements on these standards and baseline regulatory requirements, which are critical for both innovation and AI safety. I just saw this headline a few weeks ago. The UN was calling for global regulation. This was followed by another article, which is global AI governance gaps must be addressed. And then there's another one that says what companies can expect from the U.S. in an international framework collaboration, right? So this stuff is coming. It's only a matter of time until we're being mandated to have compliance. A lot of people do business with government organization stuff. It's going to be required. While the global standards may have nuanced difference as they're adopted, there's a consensus on what constitutes responsible AI. And as such, organizations, if they put the effort into adopting a framework that is available and aligning their organization with those values, they might have to do a mapping exercise to meet some of these regulatory requirements, but honestly, they should be able to meet most of the requirements, and then they can fill in the gaps. So what I ask is be brave enough to suck at something new, because this is the reality of the world we live in. Even being in AI, it's been an interesting, last 5 years jumping into AI, but the reality is we're all learning this together. So it's something that we all have to work toward a better future. So framework I developed, and actually this is shared in the links in the HOVA app. The framework was developed as a result of the hackathon. It's published in conjunction with the IEEE. We created it. It's publicly available based on the NIST AI RMF. It also provides a comprehensive approach for organizations to measure and manage the risks associated with AI systems effectively, and allows people to evaluate based on a recognized framework, which is NIST. This is the one that government's going to be aligning with, right? So if your organization can ensure they're adopting a responsible AI practices and mitigate socio-technical harms to the systems that they're deploying. This not only enhances your reputation as an organization, but it fosters trust among all your stakeholders, and it promotes ethical development of AI technologies. So at my company, I have a research consultancy company, which is Assess Intelligence. We leverage a proprietary framework that's called our CERT model. It's based off of this. And it also bakes in security because security is a foundational component of who I am as a person. It's important, and you can't have secure and responsible technology without security. So it's critical. So your organization needs to be proactive about their responsible AI program. You must ensure that your organization understands the risk of the technologies they're developing and deploying. And we must understand training and diversity of thought are critical. Developers and implementers need to understand the risk of the system they're designing and the impacts their biases can have. We must ensure that all users who deploy technologies are informed of the potential risks of the systems and how to properly use them. As society redraws global policy and defines expectations for how we handle AI, we must stay ahead of the potential regulatory requirements. So as I said when we started, not all AI is not bad. Simply put, bad AI is bad. We must evaluate and understand the risk associated and implement responsible practices to prevent bad AI. And that is the end.